Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Subramaniam Masalamani. I am a Tamil. Today my topic is Sri Lanka, a nation that refuses to concede its wrongdoing, defeat and responsibility. We sincerely ask Bell Pottinger Group to re-evaluate their role as public relations representative for Sri Lanka. For sooner or later, your moral standing will become questionable. It appears they do not have the moral dimension in their business. At the same time, the international community must differentiate innocent, hardworking, community-minded Tamils from LTTE. It is to whom we seek justice. Bell Pottinger, a public relations firm, and its crisis management team are trying their best to enhance the image of Sri Lanka with what they got. They are doing a great job. But the evidences are overwhelming against them. The tsunami is so strong, the ripples do not make any impact. While Bell Pottinger is trying to present a rosy and a subdued picture of the Sri Lankan government to the international community, deep inside Sri Lanka, the Tamil areas, the atrocities continue unabated. Crimes, murders, robberies, rapes are common occurrences. I think time has come to Bell Pottinger to re-evaluate their role as public relations representative for Sri Lanka, because sooner or later their moral standing will become questionable. It appears there is no moral dimension to their business. In the recent times, 3 people changed the course of history of the world. Martin Luther King about civil rights. Richard Nixon changed Chinese communism to capitalism. And George Bush transformed fanaticism to freedom. Who will be the maker of the human rights history? Patrick Henry, freedom fighter for US, said, "Either give me my freedom or give me your death." That freedom is a common feature of the universe. Every living thing, every living molecule, and every non-living entity are free to exist and act. But among humans, there exists a tendency to control and abuse its own kind. This is what democracy is trying to address and alleviate. The whole world has to come to grip with the fact that human right is an inalienable right of every person who wants to live and be creative. The future world depends on it. The future of the world socio-economic condition depends on freedom and human rights. Let me tell you something to the world boldly. The Sri Lankan episode will go on for eons if someone doesn't get involved in it. It is the duty of us Tamils to come forward and make that impact, similar to the Tiananmen Square in China, where one man changed the whole world. The international community must come together, not only in the interest of moral justice, but also in the interest of their own countries, for they too will go back in moral evolution if they do not help to bring Sri Lanka to justice. Sri Lanka as a nation has to be put on a different path, a path more in line with respect for life. In Sri Lanka, killing of innocent people have become an accepted norm. That is a dangerous course. What the international community wants to do about Sri Lanka is their business. They can mull over it, they can muddle it up, or make it. But as Tamils, we have a duty and responsibility. We have to lay down a plan and lay down the groundwork for retributive justice. We must reciprocate what the Sinhalese people did to our innocent Tamils in such a way that they will never ever think about it. As one Jewish man said, Masada shall not fall again. If it will happen again, we will take the aggressor along with us. There is a long battle lies ahead for Tamils. Its freedom is not a destination. As long as we have got liars and laggards around, one has to keep a vigil on them and at the fence. The Sinhalese have to be punished. Some call it retribution. I call it justice. Justice is all about retribution by exact and equal amount of the offense. Why? The Sinhalese people voted the tyrant who killed 40,000 innocent Tamil civilians. So then the Sinhalese people are part and parcel of it. Proofs are overwhelming. There are no ifs and no buts. One could understand spur of the moment violence. But when put into a plan and executed, it is not a forgivable act. For 60 years, Tamils were terrorized by people supported by the state. It was state-sponsored terrorism for the last 60 years and continuing. Punishing Rajapaksa is not going to solve the problem. He is just another foot soldier. It is the Mahavamsa equivalent to Mein Kampf, the Mahasangha equivalent to the Third Reich, and the Mahanayakas equivalent to the Hitler and his lieutenants. This is where the problem is. Whoever comes to power comes with the blessing of this axis of evil. The Mahavamsa must be burned, Mahasangha must be disbanded, and the Mahanayakas brought to justice for inciting racial and fanatical feelings, and the Sinhalese people brought into modern civilization. The Mahavamsa is the inspiration, and the Mahanayakas are the seminal source of the racial and fanatical behavior of the people. I hope this small narrative gives a quick glimpse of the Sri Lankan struggle. Let me ask the world, how would you expect Sri Lanka to do a credible and impartial investigation when Mahinda Rajapaksa, the president himself, is a prime suspect? Then there is Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Sarath Fonseca, Jagat Dias, Shavendra Silva, and the whole bunch of Gestapos are the people who were involved in this genocide. If they are in power, will they allow a commission that was created by them to investigate them? No. Simple. What Sri Lankan Sinhalese are trying is to muddle up terrorism, innocent Tamil civilians, and the human rights violations so as to confuse the world and to misdirect the attention of the world. They are knowingly mixing up LTTE with innocent Tamils, war crimes with reconstruction and reconciliation. There is no reconciliation and no reconstruction. To their nature, they lie. It's their nature to lie. Do not expect them to us to believe their lies. They do not expect you to believe their lies. It's not the purpose. The purpose is to purposely ridiculing the Tamils and rest of the world. They want to send the world on a wild goose chase by pulling wool over our eyes. It is expected of them, for they are nondescript people. They have no culture, no character, and no heritage. As a friend of mine said, in Cuba, you can have a wife for a day for $5. Sri Lanka is no different, and they have nothing to live for and nothing to wake up for except illicit liquor, prostitution, tourism, Middle East mistress service, Mervyn Silvas and Rajapaksas. While Rajapaksa is chanting voodoo craft with the blood of 3,000 women to fend off evil spirits, Mervyn Silva is given 1,500 ceremonies to bring blessing to him to fend off curses brought onto him. It is prudent and practical for Tamils to just leave or find a way to eliminate this pestilence and pollution in the Indian Ocean. The Sri Lankan criminals disguised as diplomats at the United Nations and the United Nations Human Rights Commissions know that there were serious violations. We know there were serious violations. They know we know there were serious violations, but they simply do not care. There is no comprehension, for they don't have the faculty of moral justice and logic built into them. They are like their own water buffaloes, senseless people. Whether the Reconciliation Commission is created by the Sri Lankan government or created by the Sri Lankan public, it is still within Sri Lanka and with the military running the government and looking over their shoulders. How can there be any impartial and genuine investigation? So this so-called investigation by Sri Lankan government is like asking the raccoon or the mongoose to investigate about the missing chickens. You get the story, right? How can we ask that? What this world needs is a tough leader and tough leadership grounded on absolute moral values, not dependent on political pundits and paycheck bureaucrats. Sri Lanka is trying to drag on this investigation till the genocide and war crimes slowly fade away from the memory of the people. It is our job as Tamils to keep the flame alive. We have a huge responsibility to uphold the moral dimension of the universe. We had to assume the sacred role as the janitarians and the sanitarians. What we should do is, we should close down the United Nations and convert it into a sanctuary for the homeless people. Too many people are protecting their backs and warming their cushioned seats. Nothing gets done in the United Nations. If Mr. Ban Ki-moon cannot pick up the phone and tell Russia and China and all nations of the world that I need your support to stop human rights violation, there is no other choice for the free world except demolish those nations that do not respect human rights and right to life. Responding to Navi Pillai of the United Nations Human Rights Commission comments this week, Ms. Tamara Kunanayake, ambassador and permanent representative of Sri Lanka, dismissed the allegations as wholly misplaced, adding the community of nations was well aware that Sri Lanka was combating a ruthless terrorist organization in the world. Listen folks, she didn't write this script. She didn't write this speech. It was written by Bell Pottinger, a public relations and crisis management outfit. I want to spend a moment about this Tamil lady. She was in South America, parachuted in to betray her own people. Someone said we had to check with her mother as to what was her father instead of who was her father. She too is one of those knowing the lie, telling a lie, and knowing that the listener knows that she is telling a lie, and yet go ahead and tell the lie. Didn't I say elsewhere that the Sri Lankan Foreign Service is full of armed thugs and hookers? She is a character of a nondescript. In animal breeding, the female does not care who the male sire is. It looks as though I am a racist and a fanatic. Sure, if I am one who made me into one. When we have thugs dressed as bureaucrats and diplomats pulling wool over the world, how bad is my character? Fantastic, isn't it? Something relative. Great liar Pires was replaced by another grand laggard, Mahinda Samarasinghe, who found another one like him as his mentor and leader. When his boss, Mahinda Rajapaksa, is accused of 2 murders in 1991, to which opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe is the cohort and forgave him. And then there are 2 other murders in which the man of interest is the president of a banana republic. What can the world expect? When leaders are all either murderers or accessory to murders, there is no nation left. It has gone back in moral evolution. It has returned to nature, where might is right and breeding is not confined to a sacred union of male and female. And Father's Day becomes the most confusing day of the year. Imagine if Sri Lankan thugs in suits are trying to intimidate the world, what they would have done to the Tamils in the last 60 years. There was never a moment of concentration or compassion. I can remember the military was given a free hand in terrorizing and subjugating Tamils. The current matter in hand is war crimes and human rights violation. It has nothing to do with LTTE. One must differentiate LTTE and Tamil citizens who had nothing to do with LTTE. Tamils always behaved as citizens, but they were caught between a rock and a hard place. If LTTE was bad according to the world, then the Sri Lankan military was the worst. Ordinary people did not have any recourse against either of them. And then when LTTE was defeated, the military went on demoralizing the Tamils. The Sinhalese has come out in the World Forum and present a rosy picture, while silently they abuse, raped and killed Tamils. This reconciliation is an eyewash. It's all propaganda, but deep inside, the military, under the instruction of the Mahanayaka, is conducting religious war. The problem is we Tamils are not united. We do not have a proper public relations or propaganda means to counter the false pretenses. Tamil people are united, but there are a few people who are dividing the community. Our first task must be to identify them and investigate them to see if they are working for pennies and pittance given by the Rajapaksas. There cannot be any other reason for division. Tamil community is united, but the leaders are divided. Mahinda Rajapaksa is a criminal who studied criminal law. What a rare and notorious combination. Imagine if a man has the inner workings of the judiciary and the institutions, and how well he can plan crimes and execute them flawlessly. And then if he take over the judiciary and the appointment of the judges, he has got it all made. He is the king. Mexican drug lords can learn a thing or two from Mahinda Rajapaksa. Compare our so-called Tamil leaders, S.J. Emmanuel and V. Rudrakumar. These guys are neither physically or mentally fit to be leaders. I will, and no Tamil should ever trust these two guys. When trust is missing, all actions are viewed as ambiguous and credibility is suspected. These two people must work on their credibility and convictions. It is their past that is casting doubt about their relationships, leadership. Sri Lanka, in the name of demining operations, evidences are being destroyed. All mass graves are being dug out and remains burned, while the US and the Indian satellites are recording all the events. If Rajapaksa and his gang expect to redeem themselves of the genocide, they will be in for a shock. All deliberate actions to eliminate evidences are illegal and can be cited as obstruction of justice. Mahinda Rajapaksa has been already found guilty, but the world wants the Sri Lankan people to sentence him and his gang. It is the Sri Lankan people who will ultimately pay the price if they don't stand up for justice. If Mahinda Rajapaksa really loves his country and adores his people, he should present himself to the international criminal courts for investigation and prove that he loves his nation and adores his people. As it is, he is pulling wool over his own people. Most nations want to distance themselves from the Sri Lankan regime. They know serious violations occurred. But some nations, they are already in trouble with the international laws and they are ganging up against justice. They come and they talk, but do not have any live evidence or hard evidences. I am talking about the Sri Lankan government. They say that we are doing this, we are doing that, but they are not doing anything. These scoundrels kill several tens of thousands of innocent Tamils and have the moral courage to stand in the world podium and say we are brothers and sisters. But this is all BS. In the name of reconciliation, they are doing things to quietly annihilate the innocent Tamil. It is very sad the superpowers have become panhandlers to third world countries. Russia and China must be ashamed of their human rights protection records. It's a shame that Russia and China and Iran and Pakistan supplied napalm bombs. Pakistan, of course, the people are paying the price for their collective mindset of violence. The Tamils around the world must come together as one entity and form a formidable representative group to convince the world. But the Sinhalese in Sri Lanka can be sure of one thing: retribution and reciprocation to Sinhalese is coming. May not be now, may not be in the next 100 years, but it will be done. The pictures, photographs, and all the literatures are carefully kept to show the future Sinhalese people that this is what your parents did. And unfortunately, what your parents earned, you inherit. That is the law of nature. Nothing can be done about that. If we feel sorry for you, but the time is now for you to act to reverse the atrocities. But but not to continue it. If you need any further evidence, just look at the Palestinians. They took lands that belonged to the Jews, and today they are landless panhandlers, paying the price. Besides, other nations used them for their political purpose and mileage. That's all, folks, for this week. As I always say, 70 million Tamils worldwide. Unite, stay together, work hard, never ever give up. We are winning, and the best is yet to come. My name is Subramani Maslamani, a world-class Tamil, powered by convictions, commitments, and conscience.